This country was built on a distinctly American work ethic. But today, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and diminished our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make a variety of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more. All made right here in the USA, from growing the cotton to adding the final touches. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs for seamsters, cutters, and factory workers in towns and cities across the United States. And it's about more than an income. Jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
It's November 1924. The leaves are long gone, the air's dry as a popcorn fart, and northern Huron County is one careless match away from a disaster. Welcome to End of the Road in Michigan. Today, we're turning back the clock a full century to revisit one of the wildest weekends Caseville has ever seen, when a forest fire nearly wiped it off the map. Now, Caseville's known today for cheeseburgers, boats, and tourists in flamingo shirts. But back in 24, it was a little village perched on the edge of Michigan's thumb, surrounded by dry timber and a whole lot of wind. A bad combo. The spark came from, you guessed it, hunters. Probably had more beer than brains. Others blamed surveyors. Either way, it was clear pretty quickly, this wasn't just another brush fire. Maybe it was a careless campfire down near the base of Sand Point that kicked off a blaze that caught the wind and took off like a racehorse. Within hours, it was headed straight for Caseville Ridge. There was no formal emergency response system, no FEMA, no National Guard. In today's world, we call 911 and pray the fire chief doesn't have a hangover. But back then, the alarm was word of mouth, a few frantic phone calls, and probably a party line phone system that worked half the time. Yet within hours, men from Pigeon, Bayport, and all points in between came rolling in with shovels, teams of horses, and pure grit. And by sundown, farmers, townsfolk, and anyone with a decent back had shown up with shovels, axes, even wet gunny sacks to beat the fire down. Hundreds of them came from Pigeon, Bayport, Elkton, even Bad Axe. It was a full-on thumb-style fire brigade, no uniforms, just work boots and flannel. They weren't firefighters, they were farmers, clerks, barbers, and they showed up ready to dig fire breaks, plow dirt, and fight the flames like their homes depended on it, because they did. The blaze got uncomfortably close to the farms of M. Beach and J.J. Campbell. A small barn belonging to Tippy Jewell, yes, that was his actual name, was the only structure lost, but it was a close call. Sparks were jumping like grasshoppers, and more than one chicken coop was turned into charcoal. Meanwhile, a group of surveyors from Bad Axe, out measuring land for what would later become M25, found themselves trapped. John Barr, the crew lead, didn't panic. He gunned their truck down the lakeshore, skimming the waterline until they reached safety. And that's how M25 almost became the highway to heaven. Back in town, firefighters from every thumb village that had a hose showed up. They laid almost a mile of line to wet down rooftops and create a soggy firebreak around Caseville's homes. Bad Axe rolled in with a chemical wagon, basically an early version of a foam sprayer that fizzes like an angry science fair volcano, and kept it running all night, dousing hotspots. But the real danger was to the north, Oak Beach. That area still had virgin forest, old growth trees, some hundreds of years old, and cottages, lots of them. Some families were ready to throw belongings in their cars and evacuate, but a well-timed wind shift pushed the flames back, and the firefighters used the road as a barrier. It held. Call it divine intervention or dumb luck. Either way, it worked. The smell of smoke hung in the air for days. Folks would find smoldering patches of ground, even a week later. It was a miracle the town didn't lose more. By midnight, the worst of it was over. The fire smoldered through the night. But it was beat. By midnight on that Saturday night, the fire was under control. The damage, about 20 miles of blackened countryside, some ruined fences, and a few singed trees, but no homes lost, no lives either, just smoke in the air, ash on the boots, and one hell of a story passed down for generations, and Caseville endured. This wasn't the Great Fire of 1881, but it came dangerously close, and the reason Caseville didn't join the history books as another ghost town? Neighbors, regular people who didn't wait to be asked, they just showed up. So the next time you're in Caseville sipping a cocktail and watching the sunset, remember that a century ago, it was a village on the edge of disaster, and a whole bunch of folks in flannel shirts and dusty boots made damn sure it didn't burn. Thanks for listening to End of the Road in Michigan. If you like this episode, share it with someone who loves a good local story, or someone who just thinks fires should stay in the fireplace. Until next time, stay safe, stay alert, and maybe keep a bucket of water handy, just in case.